It's the biggest change to Overwatch since roll queue or 5v5, but the clips are all about one thing.
So the red right there is the hit scan bullet, and the green is what you're gonna see in season 9. What? Ah! What the fuck is that, bro?
Bigger projectiles in Overwatch 2's Season 9 patch are dominating the discussion, and with clips like those, rightfully so.
Okay. Oh, fair enough. Tracer, I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm accurate on my screen. See? On my screen, I'm not missing. This is just my amazing aim.
But the game really has changed in serious ways, and hitboxes are only one part of that equation. So, how worried should you be?
How?
Frenetic innovation at its finest.
How? How? Oh!
You're not in charge anymore.
Okay, so Season 9 has now dropped in Overwatch 2, and with it, a whole slew of changes. Now, for some people, new content on its own will always hit different, but your shots literally hit differently now in Overwatch 2, and it's got some people asking, why?
About halfway
Do not
where his health
provoke
bar is, above his head, about halfway up there, that's head hitbox. Boom. That's kind of crazy. What?
Oh, I feel all warm inside.
The scaled up projectiles are generous to say the least. So what's Blizzard's explanation? Well, this is where it gets really interesting because their answer is that they want fights to last longer and to rely more on counterplay and less on healing. But wait a sec, making headshots way easier doesn't accomplish that goal on its own. It's just a piece in a bigger puzzle. Firstly, heroes have more health across the board than ever before, and these increases are significant. On top of that, every hero in the game can now passively heal if they avoid damage for 5 seconds, with supports taking only half that amount of time. And maybe most critically, damage roll heroes now apply a minus 20% healing received debuff to targets that they damage. To summarize, the devs want fights to take slightly longer, and the idea here is to emphasize things like target selection and counterplay in these fights. They want damage to be more consistent instead of people getting burst down immediately, but in order to accommodate that, they had to adjust healing and pocketing as well. Where it gets weird is where Blizzard starts talking about the consistency of hitting shots. I'll admit that I've only ever played this game on a PC with a 144Hz monitor, but I don't think hit registration was ever truly a big problem for this game, at least from my perspective. If anything, I'd say it's better than a lot of other shooters that move at this speed. It's not like I've never complained about anything, but credit where it's due, it was pretty good. Regardless, it might be easier to hit someone with these new bigger projectiles, but everyone's got more health as well. Healing is now worse at saving people who are being focused, but every player has an option to get some health back if they can just catch a breather. Regardless of how the game looks, Overwatch is fast-paced at high levels. It's got a lot of verticality, and for players coming from new games, there's a learning curve.
He's not wrong with that, but I would argue that in a lot of ways, like, movement is a skill in the game. So I wonder how much this will affect something like good movement, you know?
So does this hitbox change help people who are trying to learn the game, for example, or who only play it very casually? Probably. The way that it's phrased by game director Aaron Keller makes me think that it might be part of the intent. But that may not sit well with some players who could feel that many such changes have catered to that specific audience of late. The real truth about these changes is that many of them are dramatic. The health changes are huge. And the role passives are pretty important too, particularly that DPS one that reduces healing by 20%. A comparison of Zenyatta's Discord orb to this role passive is unavoidable, with Zenyatta's orb giving a 25% increase to damage taken. But at the end of the day, it just helps put into perspective that damage dealers will need to pick their targets well to succeed.
Like, it forces the player, the support player, to use the cooldown sooner, which gives you an opportunity to then capitalize it on a play, which, you know, honestly, that theory makes a lot of sense. I think I didn't think about that. Aaron's kind of cooking there.
Jake pointed out that things not only move quickly in this game, they instantly change direction, and target dummy clips won't help us understand whether the game is better or not. Even if the clips are a lot, we need to see how this fits together, and so far, he likes it. Pharah got a rework that looks pretty interesting to me, but beyond that, it was pretty much a light touch on the rest of the heroes in the game since, well, lots of other stuff got changed too. But this patch gave us a lot of stuff besides clips, and one of those things might be the best ranked system I've ever seen. Sure, there's finally mana for the competitive faithful, like the new Jade weapons. Finally, a new competitive skin, and your rank will be adjusted more frequently now too. There's now also a new top rank called Champion, which is supposed to be even more prestigious than the old Grandmaster. And on top of that, queuing restrictions with your friends have been reduced, so that should help to cut down on some of the smurfing we see in the game. But telling players the detailed reasons that their rank changed, that immediately puts this rank system near the top. And it feels like all these things together mean a potential surge of interest in ranked. Now, I'm not a game developer, but I get the feeling that in the past, this kind of thing would be treated with some skepticism. I mean, at the end of the day, why does the player need to know all of these things that affected their rank? Well, it turns out that players that get invested in competitive modes do actually care about the reasons that the number that they care so much about goes up or down. And finally, Overwatch 2 is going to give that to the player base. But do we really want it?
You think you do, but you don't.
I'm mostly messing around, but I think there is a dimension to this where some people might actually have been happier not knowing. At the end of the day, it's good that the information is available. To me at least, the system looks great. And my coworker Brendan, who was a huge help sharing his insights for this video, also said that he's excited for ranked for the first time in a long time. The patch adds a rework of the Junkertown map as well. I think this was a map that over time people started to slowly dislike. And the new map has a night version as well, and it's looking pretty good. There's lots of other small quality of life type stuff, like new crosshairs or being able to commend your friend. Like, sometimes your friends do carry the game. I have a friend named Zhang who's insane at Wrecking Ball, and when he carries my horrible Ana play, I should be able to recognize him, right? It's good. And listen, despite how wild the clips look, it kind of seems like this patch has players excited to try it out and see where this whole thing leads. I tried it myself last night just briefly, and frankly, it feels pretty good, but the Zenyatta orb is very strong. It feels better than ever. Given that the transition to Overwatch 2 has had plenty of missteps and 5v5 wasn't exactly loved by everybody, this patch represents a chance for a new future for this game. It feels different for sure, and sometimes change is needed. But whether it's the change that this community wants right now remains to be seen. Through a series of rabbit holes, I was reminded of a song that was in a Persona 3 like spin-off project that has a rap track in it. And I just want you to imagine that you're like watching, like maybe you're at like a live venue and somebody's rapping, and the first line out of their mouth is, "Check it out, I'm in the house like carpet." What does that mean to you? Like, that's my question to you in this end board. If someone raps, "I'm in the house like carpet," how are they in the house? Because to me, I have carpet in a couple places in my house, but they're in different places.